Welcome back, everyone, to the North American Star League Season 4 third and fourth place match.
That's right, we're going over to game number 3. We have a lot of fun here at the North American Star League, but we also have a ton of games that we dish out time and time again every single week. And now we have another one. Game number 3 in this best of 7 set, 2-0 up for Polt. Let's move into it. Polt versus Sortof.
Quick shout out to our graphics team who has also revamped the map intros for this series. In the top right corner of Metropolis, we have the Red Zerg counting down 0-2. He's going to need to make a comeback. It is Western Wolves, Sortof.
Sortof definitely needs to pick things up as he is down 2-0 against this potent player. It is TSL Polt. It just feels like Polt has been playing absolutely standard. He's been playing very, very safe, economic. I mean, even his quote-unquote all-ins have a lot of, I guess, follow-up. They have a way to go into macro mode, stay alive. It's not too committing where you pull all your SCVs and just go and cross your fingers, hope your attack works. He has a way about him where he puts on a lot of pressure, but still can macro and go into those games.
Yeah, and that's going to allow Polt to open up more options because now he's shown two sides of the coin. He's shown a macro build. He's shown a huge timing pressure build that if it was held off, Sortof would have been in a great position, but now in both scenarios, he's lost. So Sortof has to be very, very cautious with how he approaches this match, but I don't think that's going to stop him at all. We see, once again, a pool hatchery opening with no gas just yet. Still has the availability of adding it on, here and there, but generally speaking, he's not going to go for a quick hatchery first instead. He's just being super duper safe.
That's right. And one of the ways to see that last push coming is to have that Xel'Naga Watchtower. On Ohana, if you have the Xel'Naga Watchtower, you see those massive amounts of Hellions coming. You could potentially even see the Marauders and Marines, but how do you do that without metabolic boost? And I think Sortof has been really, I wouldn't say countered, but he's been dealt with in this early game stage because of the lack of that metabolic boost. I think that's why Korean shifted over to that sort of style, where you can poke around, see where your opponent is going, see, are there Marauders out in the field? Are there Marines out in the field? What am I expecting? And then go from there, maybe even do a little bit of pressure. But with this, Sortof is just saying, I need a build that defends against everything, and let's hope I can still stay alive economically. We saw last game, he tried to go into this economic route where he gets a fast third base, but he just was not able to keep up with the big pressure.
Yeah, and that's going to come into play, but Metropolis is a big map. It's a different scenario. We've seen games on this map start off on 3 bases. They say, you know what, let's just not push for 15 minutes, and let's meet up, in 15 minutes and see what we got. And it's one of those scenarios where it's really hard to attack because you have to traverse such a long distance to get to your opponent's base. So that's naturally going to provide an inclination. Oh, but look at here. We have, again, instead of a third command center follow-up, we have 2 more barracks coming out of Polt.
I love these 2 barracks. I mean, if we go back to the scouting of the Terran player Polt, he sees that there's no early extractor. And even if you get it 30 seconds later, you will not have that metabolic boost out to just stay safe against everything. There could be an additional command center going down. There could be 5 more racks or 4 more racks going down. The amount of options that you have to defend against is just too numerous. And he's getting punished for it right now. Still, I don't want to make it like it's an obsolete build because you can definitely defend against a lot of these pushes. You just need to overdo it with queens. And let's see if we see that. So far, it's 5 queens. I like that. I would love 6. It gives you just enough transfuses. But Sortof is staying on 5 so far. And he really needs those spine crawlers if he wants to hold off against this pressure. Again, double tech labs. No, triple tech labs, excuse me. Oh my god, this is a big just Marauder-only Hellion.
Wow, Polt's going to mix it up once again and do a variation of his aggressive build. But Polt, I mean, the past few series we've seen out of him in international tournaments and in Korea has been macro games, but he can mix in these vicious attacks that has no hope for Zerg to hold off if they're not prepared. And the Overlord is trying to go in for the scout now, but now Polt rushing two Marines to the scene, and I don't think they'll be able to see anything, although they might see double tech lab. I don't know how they're going to be able to see anything else besides the Hellion count.
Well, that double tech labs is enough. He sees the Marauder as well. Now, here's a big tell as well. Look at this. The tech labs, they weren't working. So it's like, why would you get Marauders and not use anything on those tech labs? If you go over here, you can... Nope. Stim's already finished?
No, he just started Stim. So that's going to be a really nice comfort zone for Sortof. He doesn't have to worry about Stim Marauders against his Roaches. But he's just going for a big timing. And he's just going to go with units and just straight up attack. Sortof isn't really making any static defense either. He's just making units himself and trying to use creep spread, which would be really good to limit the effectiveness of these Hellions and Marauders.
Yeah, I really like the response of Sortof this time around. Incorporating Roaches. Of course, Roaches aren't the best against Marauders, but if you're on 2-base all-in against 2-base all-in, the Roaches, a lot of times with the power of those Queens and Transfuses, will stay alive. Also Zerglings, of course. You can't count them out. But you have to get rid of those Hellions. If the Hellions die, you empower your Zerglings, and then all of a sudden you're in a good spot. The Zerglings alone cannot deal with those Hellions. So that's the main purpose of those Roaches. But as you can see, he's just backing off now. I think we're going to see that timing go down in about, what is this, 90 seconds, 80 seconds?
Yeah, is he waiting for Stim here?
He's waiting for Stim,
just trying to roam. Because I think if he could confront directly, he obviously would. There's only a few Roaches and 30 Zerglings, and if you can get a good position, but the creep spread, as well as strong scouting from Sortof has already denied this effectively for a little bit. Now, Polt's still trying to zone off, but he's preparing a third command center, so inevitably going to transition to a lot of macro play, but for now, just going to keep up his unit production and switch into tanks.
Yeah, it's not nearly as powerful as last game. As you said it in the beginning, Frodan, the map is just coming to play this game around. I mean, the distance between the bases are just so extreme. You can see even the creep spread is so much better for Sortof. Yeah. It's extended all the way down, whereas last game we saw it barely to the Xel'Naga Watchtower. We can see it's also barely to the Xel'Naga Watchtower over here, but this is a gigantic map, Metropolis, as we know. Command Center will go ahead and finish pretty soon, but this is a pretty late third base relative to Sortof's third base, although Sortof hasn't capitalized on this yet. He needs his 5th and 6th gas ASAP, but he still is saying, I need to defend against potential delayed pushes.
Yeah, but I think Sortof already has the right idea. He's already sniffed out this attack won't work. A mini confrontation in the middle of the map, doesn't want to lose too much, so Polt does pull back. But overall sees a lot of Roaches, says, okay, well, that's 4 Roaches. That means he's not going to be able to just fast tech into Hive and feel very safe because he has to spend on units, and you can see his lair is just finishing. His infestation pit is just finishing, so he's trying to get all the important upgrades, but it has been delayed pretty severely on both ends, both for Zerg and for Terran.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Sortof to produce those key units that he needs, but still he has a lot of units on the ground. Was not able to get that surround. The Roaches just lagged up a little bit. Glue Reconstitution will finish pretty shortly here, Frodan. And once he gets that, he'll be able to deal with the Hellions a lot better. He'll be able to extend the creep a little bit faster. Let's see what happens, as he will also be incorporating Infestors now. But you said it perfectly, Frodan. Look how many Infestors are in production. 1.
Well, Infestors are pretty good, Andre.
They are good, but you need more than 1 to stop a player like Polt. But that's forced because of just the massive amount of upgrades that he needs, as you were saying.
And, I mean, Polt is now comfortably on 3 bases. He has a big army. He doesn't necessarily have the greatest upgrades. He only has +1, but he just has a lot of supply. And keep in mind, Zerg is still on lair tech. And as great as lair tech can be, we've seen players like Hyun and ZVT, for example, really push the limits of mid-game Zerg with the capability of Roach, Bane, and Zergling and Infestors. But Sortof, is he able to really hold this off? Needs to make sure to deny the siege tank positioning. Metropolis is an area where you can get lots of flanks, but I don't know. There's a lot of units from Polt here.
Yes, there are, but he doesn't have a lot of production. So if Sortof is able to stop this attack from going down, or at least stop it in its tracks, he will be comfortably ahead. He has a very, very nice production. Oh, Infestor!
It went for fungal, but it misfired. The Infestor is shooting blanks. Too old to serve in the Zerg army. Infestors are trying to also zone off the top part of this map here, but there's really nothing that he can do. The siege tanks are already in position and spread. Sortof going to try to go for a flank. Polt has to be very cautious. He's leaving submarines behind. Instead, Sortof's going to use it to cut off some of the reinforcements. But we see that Sortof's already forced his hand, and Polt has so many units. He's going to already engage a big stim. No medevac, so Polt is committed to this. Can Sortof break through?
The Infestors are just walking through. Sortof loses so much in this battle, and he's going to lose positioning to defend his third base.
Or even his fourth base, he can't lose it, and there's a lot of drones there, and there's only one queen to stand in the path. Zerg trying to go for the tanks. That's going to be an excellent snipe, but he needs a little bit more. Sortof pulling some of his drones to do something, and he looks like he might be able to clean up a lot, but he's already suffered so much damage, losing an incredible amount of Infestors and several of his drones.
Still, the saturation is pretty decent, although this is a ridiculous amount of reinforcements that had to be committed to the same push. Now let's look. This army, it's powerful, but it's not as big as we're normally expecting because he isn't at that 3-base production just yet. Once he gets there, he gets it. Let me see how many barracks he has. Yeah, about 2, maybe even 2 more barracks directly after this. He will be at like the optimal production where he can just churn out those units and really rely on his bank. Once he maxes to 200 to just flow in with a ridiculous amount of units. Here we have, this is a kind of an odd push over here, just 2 siege tanks and a couple of marines with a lot of the rest of the army straggling behind. This is exactly what I was talking about. You can be cut off very easily with just Zerking Infestor.
Yeah, but he's doing it very cautiously, trying to get the watchtower and staying on the edge of creep. Still very difficult, again, not just because of the lack of mobility, because Infestors can't retreat as easily, and once they use their energy, they are extremely vulnerable to an attack. Polt's still doing this without medevacs, and he's going to stim several of his marines to try to take out these creep tumors quickly. And as we've seen in IPO 5, clearing up these tumors is invaluable for the late game if you want to continue to pressure, as we saw in Bomber versus DRG.
You know, on paper, you would always say that like Roach Infestor is really nice against this composition. The Roaches give you a little bit of ranged attack to make sure that those big attack actually coming, nope. But the Roaches line up the Marines to allow you to fungal a little bit better instead of those Zerglings just getting annihilated every time they try to attack against those Marines. And he had that for a little bit, but Polt is playing this so patiently. Oh my goodness.
And he's moving out for a fourth base as well. He's going to pressure the Infestors. They do land fungals, but one brave Marine is going to go and he takes it out. Billy the Marine on a hero mission to take out as many Infestors as he can.
Billy's dead.
He failed.
But Broodlords are out in this composition, and as I was saying, you don't have the production to really surge across the map. That's why Polt, he's done a great job, though. I mean, look at how much creep was receded. That's really extensive. But Polt probably will be able to get back, or is he going to go for a big fight? I'm not sure yet.
I mean, Polt doesn't necessarily have, if he can just deny bases, it's almost just as good. He knows his opponent is on 4 base as well. Polt doesn't have the best upgrades. Zerg is already on +2 carapace, but its surround does go on some of the reinforcements. Polt trying to flank, but the Brood's already out, but there's not there's any Infestors to support it. Marines can just chase it down. Infestors not in a good spot to be able to land the reinforcement fungals. One of the Broodlords drop. A very, very sloppy engage, but regardless, Polt seems to be breaking through ever so slightly.
Oh my gosh, getting the Infestors, which are so important. One of them had full energy, and the Broodlords are going down. There are only 3 of them, but still, I mean, Marines are, what, 1-1 against 0-0, so still looking good. 2-2 on the way, by the way. There is an upgrade advantage, I do believe. 2-2 against 1-1 currently, but still, I mean, Polt's positioning has really spoken in this game.
And Polt is picking off some of these Corruptors, which is really nice. It's effectively limiting any future Broodlords. Polt will lose these units, but he already has, again, 4 bases, equal economy to the Zerg opponent, and we've been seeing great amounts of split attacks from Polt to diverge into the late game, and his transition into air is already beginning as he's getting Vikings as well as those upgrades. One thing that sort of had it in his favor was his upgrades. He's at 2-3 over his opponent that was at 1-1, but Polt only gets stronger from here, and Polt was able to trade at a pretty efficient rate.
That's right, and 3-3 hasn't started yet for his for the Zerg right now. Oh, excuse me. +3 melee attack hasn't really started, so he will have like a 3-3 timing sort of where he's going to equalize pretty nicely, and his opponent is just getting his upgrades, whereas if the upgrades are already done, he would have all that minerals and gas to spend on, let's say, more Infestors, more Broodlords, etc. Nicely done, just trading out a couple of Marines for Creep Tumors.
This is really nice, trading Zerglings for some of the units.
Yeah.
Sort of doesn't lose too much while being able to stall for some time and trying to preserve the life of the Creep Tumors. But this is a really good job by both players just to try to control the map with small packs of units, still trying to feel out each other and see where they're at in terms of army strength. 3 Brewers are on the way, but Sortof is also getting a 5th base, and that's going to be kind of scary because now it's going to be that Polt can drop into the main, drop into the 5th base, be everywhere on the map, and it's going to be very hard for Zerg to cover all their bases with such an immobile composition.
And isn't that so interesting? We've had such different styles from Polt. I mean, game 1, he was dropping all over the place, really being aggressive, almost being like, I would say, like select QXC in the old days for the beta. But now Polt changing completely, just going push-heavy styles, and he's still successful with this. Normally, it's so hard to play different styles and be successful. He's being competent, and Bolt says more than competent.
And Polt does scan to see where units are positioned, indicating he wants to attack. Sort of going to go for a complete flank otherwise, but Polt sees it with his Marine at the watchtower, and that's going to signify to Polt that he should protect his rear a little bit to make sure that he doesn't get completely flanked. The Brewers are now approaching, but they're all kind of choking up. Has to make sure the Infestors don't get hit either, as the Vikings are now trying to push back the front line of Zerg. Can sort of break through. He needs to. He can't afford to lose his base. He can't afford to lose this game, Andre.
No, he can't. Going down 3-0 would be terrible, but look at that. Cleaning up all the Vikings. He really didn't have a lot of Corruptors. He's pushing on in. All these units aren't really trapped because there are a lot of medevacs, but hold that thought. There are Infestors to help out, sort of cleaning up and retaining this top middle base.
Yeah, but look at how many drones he's killed, Andre. Polt has killed 45 drones this game, and now sort of is only down to about the mid-50s. He was already in like the 70-80 range, and he lost a lot, and he lost one of his bases and a significant amount of damage to that hatchery. Polt's still able to trade out all those units. He was still on just biotank with a few Vikings, and in the end, Zerg did lose a lot, giving Polt a small window where he can be safe, but at the same time, Sortof did keep a lot of his Infestors, so I feel like both players engaged as well as they could have, but Sortof gave a lot of space to Terran.
So here's the one thing, though. Units lost tab, if we look at it, it's very, very even. That last trade, I feel like if Polt was able to get out with all of his medevacs, it would be a much different game. But because he hasn't, Polt's going to take a much more defensive tone this time around. In game number 1, we saw him dropping all over the place, allowing him to buy time to get the beautiful composition of Ravens and Vikings. That counters the Broodlords pretty nicely. He's not able to do that here, and that was really postponing the attacks every single time. So if Sortof goes and says, okay, I feel comfortable, I'm going to push out, I think he's going to be a lot more successful. A lot less Hunter-Seeker missiles, a lot more units. Potentially we can have a really, really nice attack over here. The question is, how does he make that call? How does he say, yes, an attack would be perfect right now?
Well, I mean, given the information he has, he doesn't really have much. Polt, despite him having, despite the fact that Zerg has the Zerglings down to the map with a lot of speed, Polt's been denying creep. He's been controlling towers, limiting the vision. Sortof doesn't have coverage. In fact, he can't even know if a dropship pack is going to the top half of the map because he doesn't have overlords there. And then he's trying to go for a run by, but there's really going to be no success. And he sees a Raven transition already prepared for Terran. That's going to make it really tough for Sortof to engage.
Is he going to go for it, Frodan? Another group of units. Infestors need to be so careful. One Infestor goes down. Two Infestors. 3. Oh my god, that is so brutal. He needs to keep those Infestors alive. They're such a pivotal point in this composition. If you don't have Infestors, you can be overrun by ground. And when you have so many Marines that are well upgraded, you do not want to be trading out 3-3 Marines against 0-2 Broodlords. It's not going to be too well.
Yeah, considering that Sortof is really mining out of his first 3 bases, these top center expansions will be the point of conflict, similar to what Polt had experiencing in Golden in his series, where if Sortof loses these 2 bases, he can't mine anything, and sure, he will have an abundance of gas, but he won't have minerals. He won't be able to spend it because he won't have an ability to really get enough units out in time to face against the Terran army for a second round. Now, Polt's still poking around with Marines. Oh no! The Marines get through, and this hatchery is very weak, Andre.
Nice fungal growth, but
Six
oh my
Marine.
gosh. Frodan.
You
It's
believe in Marine DPS, Andre.
It's going down.
The hatchery falls, and Polt also pushing at the natural base. Oh, he almost got the Roach Warren at the natural too. But Fungals did manage to kill it off, 60 HP.
Oh
Polt trying to continue to be mobile despite the fact that he doesn't really have an ability to move out in the middle of the map right now.
Yeah, sort of. It's really unfortunate for him. He has no relative measurement. He doesn't know where his opponent is. He doesn't know the composition, really. He can't get a good feel because of all the trades in the beginning stage, whereas Polt, because he's been doing all this aggression, he's gotten great scouts, not only of the army composition, but just what his opponent is capable of, where his opponent's scouting is, to let him know what decisions he could potentially make. That's why he's been able to just say, all right, I don't even have to put up bunkers. I don't have to put up siege tanks. I know you're not attacking me. You're just waiting until you have this composition.
This is the moment where Zerg just starts to panic. Says, is he really trading out his SCVs? Have I let this go on for too long?
Yeah.
Did I let the wound bleed too much that it's pussing? This is the point where Zerg's like, oh, I need to kind of do something. And that's why Sortof is pushing in, but Broodlords are kind of exposed. Ravens do have Secret Missiles, and Polt is sending in Secret Missiles, going everywhere, going to his Infestors, going to the Broodlords. Explosions, and the Zerg army is crumbling. Terran with amazing concave look at this surface area that Polt has to engage. The Broodlords are trying to do whatever they can, but there's a lot of blue left on this army, and Sortof doesn't have any energy remaining. Queens aren't able to do anything.
Oh my
GG!
How do you split like that? Polt, you unbelievable guy. I cannot believe that. That was one of the best executed battles. I was like, what are you doing with your Ravens? PDDs go down, and instead of targeting the Broodlords, he targets the Infestors. Absolutely brilliant. It gives power to these Marines and Marauders, and from there he just swept through and conquered his opponent.
Incredible display of skill and preparation for that battle. Transitions, being able to poke, and forcing Sortof's hands. Again, the SCV send is a big sign to say, if you don't do anything, I'm just going to have an unkillable army. He says, all right, well, let's engage now. And from there, Polt said, well, I was prepared. Great battle tactics from Polt, and he takes game number 3. Sortof has to win 4 in a row. Can he do it, Andre?
It's a tall task, man. I feel like Polt is very comfortable. We'll see, though, in a little bit. We're going to go into a game number 4. After this, guys, don't go anywhere. We want to thank Azo for sponsoring, of course, the NASL and that match. We'll be back after this.